Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews, and welcome to my review for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 10, the season finale, titled Hegemony. We might later be calling this Hegemony Part 1, and we'll see what they title the premiere, whether of Season 3, whether they title it Hegemony Part 2 or they give it a separate title. But in any event, it is currently called just Hegemony, and spoiler warning does apply here if you have not seen up to the end of this episode. So the bar wasn't set really high for me for this episode coming into it. Not that it was set really low either, but let's say that last season's finale, the Quality of Mercy episode, the bar for that it's set is like, it's out of your screen. It's way up here. The bar that I automatically set for this season's finale is well below that. It was here. I had zero expectation that it would be anywhere remotely close to as good as Quality of Mercy. We're doing the Gorn episode. I've had like mixed feelings on the Gorn. I did like Memento Mori last year, but I didn't like the Aliens ripoff episode that they did. And I've been a little iffy on the Canon. I do have some thoughts on that in this video, but yeah, I just kind of been iffy on the Gorn thing. Not super excited about it. So knowing that was the premise of the finale, the bar was automatically way lower. Well, actually, I think I used different hands. The Quality of Mercy is way up here, and the bar for this one coming in just based on the premise alone was quite a bit lower. Also, I have to say that the backdrop for me watching this episode is that I am in the middle of recording, at this point, almost finished recording my next installment of my top 100, which is my numbers 25 through 18. And in my top 25 of all of Star Trek, I'm not actually including Modern Trek, so nothing in Strange New Worlds qualifies. I'm focusing on the 5 Legacy series. But in all of those episodes, the top 25 is the best of the best. So I've just been talking about the most fantastic, amazing episodes in all of Star Trek, or at least by my opinion. And I've been giving, you'll see when the video is released tomorrow, that I give a lot of chef's kisses, like, like over and over again. It's the video of chef's kisses because it's so such a high level of episodes, at least by my opinion. That I am talking about in that video. So after I kind of stayed up late, like working on that video, and like then to watch this episode that is not on that level, and it is not a chef's kiss episode, and it is not one of the most fantastic episodes. But that is an unreasonable expectation for it to be that. You can't expect every episode to be that. So, with all of that in mind, I think that this episode, this bar, I'll use this hand, this bar that I had set, I think it met that. I think it was right there. I think it was as good as it possibly could be, given the expectations that I had for this episode. Knowing that it's not going to be one of those chef's kiss episode, is not going to be the Quality of Mercy type of episode. Now, if it had exceeded that, that would have been the most amazing fucking thing, but it didn't. It met my expectations for it. So all in all, I like this episode. It was good for what it was. Like it was as good as it could have been, given the premise that I was not super excited about. So let's get into a little bit more of the details of this episode. So I think I actually want to start with the ending and the fact that this is a cliffhanger. Now, I actually had heard it theorized that this could likely be a cliffhanger, so I was watching it with the possibility of it being a cliffhanger in mind. And as we went through the episode, I became more and more convinced that it indeed was going to be a cliffhanger. I was like, I don't think they're going to wrap this up in a single episode. And it just felt like kind of the setup episode in a two-parter. It felt like the first part of a two-parter all the way through. So I was not surprised by that. So in any cliffhanger, everything is dependent on how they finish it off. So it's all dependent on the second part. So you don't know what this will end up being like when it's all said and done. However, I will say that so far, so good. I think this was the first part. This was an effective first part of a two-part episode. I thought the cliffhanger itself was very effective. I love how they ended with Pike being unsure what to do. Now, at first, I was like, I wasn't sure how I felt about that because, like, well, Pike is a seasoned captain. He was kicking ass in Memento Mori last year, and would he really be that, unsure of himself? But then I saw another review where it was pointed out that Pike is really a peacetime captain. He's good as a diplomat. He's good at being a leader during peacetime, but maybe less experienced in wartime. And the Enterprise actually set out of the Klingon War. So actually, it does make sense that he would be kind of hesitant in that situation. And I do love that they ended without Pike giving an order. We didn't get the Mr. Worf fire moment. We just got Pike like, I don't know what the fuck to do. And I thought that was a really great place to end it and leaves you on the edge of your seat. Now, I am a little hesitant because I'm going to be honest with you. Star Trek doesn't actually have an overall great history with season-ending cliffhangers. There were two that were really incredible. The first one that they did, Best of Both Worlds in The Next Generation, and then Scorpion in Voyager. And that is it. All the rest of them were mediocre at best, and some of them were awful. So in The Next Generation, like Redemption is fine. Time Zero didn't need to be a two-parter, in my opinion. It didn't need to be a cliffhanger. And then the season 6 and 7 one, that one was terrible. The one with lore in it, that was awful. And then Deep Space Nine didn't really do cliffhangers per se. They did more like leaving storylines unresolved, but not necessarily like cliffhangers that said to be continued and all that. Voyager did Scorpion well, but then it had some awful ones like Equinox, and wasn't Unimatrix Zero one? I don't remember, but yeah, Equinox was terrible. So, and then Enterprise, to be fair, I would say Shockwave was pretty good. I think I put it in my Enterprise top 20, but nowhere near the quality of Scorpion and Best of Both Worlds. I would just put it like slightly above average. And then we had that weird thing at the end of season 3 where with the tacked on cliffhanger of an additional storyline after we reached the resolution of our previous storyline, which I did not like. So, and then the most recent cliffhanger we got was in Lower Decks season 2 into season 3, and I have railed against that. I think that was trying to be cute and clever and kind of mock and make fun of cliffhangers, but what it ended up doing instead is making me really annoyed that they left it as a cliffhanger. Like, it should not have been a cliffhanger. It was awful. So overall, Star Trek has really not actually done well with there's only 2 that were really, really good, and all of the rest of them are mediocre at best, and some of them were awful. So it makes me a little hesitant to see another cliffhanger, but I'm willing to give it a chance. God knows when we will see it again due to the writers and actors strike. Actually, the way that I should frame this is God knows when we will see it again until those fucking executives get their shit together and treat the writers and actors the way they should be treated and give them the respect, the pay that they deserve. And then we'll eventually, hopefully, get our season 3 and get the resolution to this cliffhanger. And we don't know when that's going to be. So that kind of sucks that we have to wait for some indefinite period of time. And I blame the fucking studio executives for that. But yeah, so when we do get that resolution, we'll see if this could come remotely close to a best of both worlds or a Scorpion. I kind of don't see it being quite at that level, but maybe it'll at least be like a Shockwave level, like above average. Like it'll be pretty good. So that remains to be seen. Now let me get into the rest of this episode. So I do see this as a big improvement over that Aliens episode from season 1. I think they're giving the Gorn a little bit more character, hinting at the fact that there's more to them than what we see on the surface. Now, as for the canon thing, this one is not bothering me as much. I have vocalized my disapproval of the whole Nurse Chapel thing and Spock thing. Definitely is a major retcon, rewriting of history that I have a hard time with. But the Gorn thing, was only in one singular episode. And if you wanted to kind of do mental gymnastics and sort of make it fit, you could. Whereas there's no mental gymnastics you can do to make the Nurse Chapel thing fit, Nurse Chapel and Spock relationship fit in. And that was over the course of several episodes over 3 seasons, whereas the Gorn was just one singular episode. So I consider that to be a little different. So I'm not bothered by it as much. And I like that they seem to be making the Gorn a little bit more than just these fucking xenomorphs from like the Aliens movies, which is what they seem to be making them last season. So I think it's moving in a positive direction, and there's a lot of tension in this episode. I talk about tension a lot actually in my top 25 video that I just released. That I love me some tension, and I love when it's executed well. And I thought that this episode had an abundance of that across multiple storylines. So let's address my screen name over here. We don't know the fate of Captain Patel. And I really am on the edge of my seat, wondering what's going to happen to this character. And I think the show has done a really excellent job of developing this character over the course of the second season. She was vastly underdeveloped in the first season, barely appeared. And then the second season, not only developing her as a character, but developing her and Pike's relationship. So we care about the fate of this character. And we also know she's not necessarily a main cast member, so she doesn't necessarily have all the plot armor, and even that the writers may choose to make the narrative choice of having Pike have to deal with this death. So that it is a definite possibility that she doesn't make it, and then that's going to weigh on Pike's story moving forward. Now, that whole thing's a little iffy, a little sketchy because of the history of women characters being used as plot devices for male character stories. So there is that history. Although I really have a lot of faith and trust in the Strange New Worlds writers that they are taking these things into consideration, and they're approaching everything with caution. And I don't think that I don't see if she does is killed off. I see Patel as being more of a developed character and not just a plot device for Pike. So I would be fine with her being killed off. In fact, there's been times where I felt like characters should have been killed off. I feel like Dr. Hubert in Discovery, they shouldn't have brought him back to life because, like, I found it very interesting how that changed Stamets' character. Never mind they're killing off the LGBTQ character if they do that, but I just found it like a fascinating, look into Stamets' character and how he was dealing with that. But then it ended up bringing him back to life and making their coming back together be really interesting too. So it worked out. But I'm not totally opposed to Captain Patel being killed off, and I am genuinely unsure whether she's going to make it or not, and that makes us good. Makes me invested, and they did an excellent job building this character up to where we get to this point. So, what else did we have in this episode? Oh, we got a little bit of a surprise cameo from a certain junior grade engineer that nobody saw coming. This actually made me think of please indulge me if you are not familiar with the Pitch Meeting channel. I always quote the Pitch Meeting channel. It's like the funniest thing. I still think that they're pumping out great videos over on the Pitch Meeting. Because he did one recently on Interstellar. Sometimes he goes back and does older movies that he missed, and they did the Pitch Meeting on Interstellar, and they were like, we're gonna do a Matt Damon jump scare. Matt Damon's just gonna jump up at you. Like, we're not putting him in any of the promotional materials. This could be freaking Matt Damon. And like, that's what it kind of made me think of, like, the Scotty jump scare. Like, Scotty just kind of comes out of nowhere, and that kind of thing is a risk. And I think anytime you bring a legacy character in, it's a risk, but especially just sort of boom, here's Scotty just coming in out of nowhere. It's a risk, but in this case, it's a risk that paid off beautifully. It paid off. This actor, I thought did an excellent job. He does channel Simon Pegg a little bit, but not too much. I'm just not a fan of those films, and I don't like Simon Pegg's portrayal of Scotty. I think it's too ridiculous. And I do think that this actor channels him a little bit, but I also feel like he's channeling James Doohan too, and also putting his own spin, the way that Paul Wesley and Ethan Peck put their own spins, and Celia Rose Gooding all put their own spins on these legacy characters. I think this actor is doing the same thing, and I am in love with Scotty immediately, and I want him to be a part of the show. Obviously, he won't be chief engineer, but I love the immediate chemistry between him and Pelia, and them having this prior relationship and like the kind of bantering that they were doing. I want to see more Pelia and Scotty bantering in season 3. So I hope that he joins the Enterprise as obviously not the chief engineer at this stage, but as a junior grade lieutenant in the engineering department who is going to get to play off of and kind of banter with Pelia. I hope that they do that because so I very much enjoyed this Scotty jump scare. Like, we're just gonna throw freaking Matt Damon in here. We're gonna throw freaking Scotty in here, and like it worked so well. I'm so pleased with it. So that made me very happy. Now, I do want to talk about the Spock and Nurse Chapel thing. I just want this to be over with. Like, I just felt like this relationship is force fed, not only breaking canon, but it doesn't work for me. And I have definitely heard people mention this in other reviews, and I'm going to mention this as well. The really convenient survival of Nurse Chapel, that how she is the only one on that ship that just happens to survive, and like she's barely bruised. I heard one reviewer mention that her hair is still perfect. It's like everybody else is dead. That took me out of the story a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that was a little bit like, come on. Like, I don't know. I mean, we know she's going to survive because she's in the original series, but still, like, you could have made it, I don't know, look a little more believable. To look a little bit more like she's just covered in plot armor. Like, I don't know. Um, yeah, and why is Spock apologizing to her? Am I misremembering last week's episode? Wasn't she the one singing, "Fuck you, Spock, I'm leaving you, yay!" Like, I don't know. Like, why did he do something at the end of that episode? Like, I forget now. Maybe I just need to watch that again. I was like, why is he the one apologizing? But anyways, yeah, so that was an aspect of the episode I didn't love. And, overall, it was really good. Like, it had me invested. I'm invested in what's happening, but it wasn't on, like, the chef's kiss level that I just covered in my top 25 video that you'll see tomorrow. Like, nor should I have expected it to be. So we'll see how they follow up with it, hopefully eventually in season 3. And we'll go from there. So I'm going to give my rating out of 10. And so what I'll probably do, if this does end up being a part 1 of 2, like if they call season premiere Hegemony Part 2, then under my own rules, that becomes one singular unit. And so what I would do in that case is, if I even do a review, I'm probably not necessarily going to be doing reviews for season 3 by the time it happens, because I am not shutting down my channel, but like reducing my content greatly. So I may or may not even do reviews. But in theory, if I were to do a review for season 3, episode 1, I would give a rating out of 10 for that singular episode. And then if it's Hegemony Part 1 and 2, I would give a rating for the whole as well. So for now, what I'm going to do is just give my rating for Hegemony Part 1, if that's what it ends up being called. So my rating out of 10 for Hegemony is an 8. I'll give it an 8. It's a pretty solid, good episode. Not one of the best, not fantastic, not over the top amazing, but solid. It did its job well, got me invested. It did as well as it possibly could. So I'll give it an 8. Okay, so that wraps up season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I would like to do a season-long review, hopefully within the next week. I'll do my best to get that out, but it'll happen sometime. I will also be back. I believe it's going to be next Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, on Enchantment of Eternity, and we'll be talking about the season overall as well. So definitely check out his channel if you haven't already, and meet me over there next week. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not already. Please be sure to check out my top 100 videos, including numbers 25 through 18, coming out to you tomorrow. And I will see you very soon. Goodbye, everybody.